My son handed me a scarf and said, "Cover your face. Don't embarrass the family." It was my grandson's 10th birthday. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. The words hung in the air like smoke. The room kept laughing, but not at me yet. The smell of frosting and candles mixed with perfume and tension. He'd said it loudly, so everyone could hear. Grace smiled first. A small, careful smile, the kind that pretends it's sympathy but hides satisfaction. Her friends exchanged glances, eyes flicking toward me, toward my hands clutching that gray synthetic rag. I should have felt anger. Instead, I felt distance, like I was suddenly watching a movie about someone else's humiliation. Noah sat across the table, his fork frozen halfway to his mouth. 10 candles glowed in front of him, and in those flames I saw the future burning slow. The silence inside me didn't start there. It began years ago, back when this house still smelled of sawdust and hope. Eli and I had built it ourselves. He'd come home from long shifts with his hands raw and still managed to hang drywall with me on weekends. We dreamed of filling every corner with warmth. And we did, until he was gone. When he passed, Michael came to me with a plan and that easy smile he'd inherited from his father. "Mom, sell the condo," he'd said. "Move in with us. I'll start the company. You'll never worry again." I gave him everything. Eli's pension, our savings, my faith. I told myself it was love. Looking back, I think it was habit. The business became a small freight company, and the house became a stage for other people's lives. Every month I signed checks, utilities, groceries, insurance, then always that last line, business support. I never asked what the money was for. Mothers don't ask. They believe. That morning had started like every birthday morning, early, quiet, alive with purpose. I woke before sunrise, the house still half asleep. The boards creaked under my feet in their familiar rhythm. I opened the kitchen window, let the cold air in, and began to bake. Flour, butter, cinnamon, the smell of my entire life. Noah loved my hand pies. Apple cinnamon, just like his grandfather used to steal right from the tray. I could almost hear Eli laugh again. Grace appeared just as the first batch browned. Her heels clicked on the tile like punctuation marks. She looked at the pies, then at me. "Still baking, Eleanor?" "You know, people talk. Cupcakes would have been easier, and trendier." There it was. Not cruelty exactly. Fear. Grace wasn't evil. She was terrified of looking ordinary. To her, homemade meant poor. I just smiled, wiped my hands on my apron, and said nothing. By evening, the house overflowed with noise. Grace's relatives filled every chair, loud, confident people who smelled of expensive cologne and shallow approval. They praised her new decor, gray walls, glass tables, the warmth drained out of every room. I poured a punch, invisible in my own kitchen. Noah tore through his gifts, a tablet, a drone, a mountain of plastic and blinking lights. Then he reached mine, a thick encyclopedia on space. He hugged me so tightly I forgot to breathe. "Thank you, Grandma. You're the best. For that heartbeat, I forgave everything." Then Michael raised his glass. "Before we cut the cake," he said too loudly, "we've got gifts for everyone. Even Mom." He crossed the room and handed me the small box, the one with the scarf. I remember the texture, rough, synthetic, like dust pretending to be fabric. "Here," he said. "Put it on. Cover your old face. Don't embarrass the family," he didn't whisper. He wanted them to hear, and they did. Grace's mother covered her mouth, pretending to hide a smile. Someone coughed into their drink. Noah stared at me, confused. Inside me, something didn't break. It settled. All the noise drained away until only a quiet click remained, like a camera shutter capturing the exact frame where love dies. I looked at my hands, the same hands that had held him as a newborn, that had cooked and scrubbed and signed checks, hands that had built this house. Now they held a scarf meant to hide my existence, so this was my worth. This was the sum of my sacrifices. I saw everything then. Grace's constant eye rolls, Michael's, "Just help us one more time," the way they spoke about me as though I were furniture. They hadn't changed overnight. They'd been sanding me down for years. And I had let them, but not anymore. When Grace brought the cake, her voice was bright again, brittle with forced cheer. "Okay, birthday boy, make a wish." Everyone sang, off-key and smiling. I watched the flames flicker across Noah's face. 10 little lights reflected in his eyes. He took a deep breath and blew them all out. While the applause rose around him, my decision formed. Cold, complete, and certain. When the clapping stopped, I stood. "I have a gift too," I said. The chatter faded instantly. Michael's jaw tightened. Grace froze mid-smile. "Noah," I said, my voice steady. "Your grandfather and I built this house for family, for the future. And today, I want your future to have something solid. I'm giving this house to you. The whole property will be in a trust under your name." Gasps rippled through the room. Grace's face was drained of color. Michael's fingers shook around the knife. "And," I added, "I'm selling my half of the business. The money goes into that same trust, to fund your education." The silence that followed could have swallowed the world. Grace blinked rapidly, searching for words that wouldn't come. Michael looked like he wanted to laugh but couldn't remember how. I sat down again and folded my napkin neatly. "Cut the cake," I said softly. "It might melt." Later that night, the house was quiet again. No apologies. No conversation. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the old clock Eli had repaired a lifetime ago. The scarf lay on my bedside table. I looked at it, not with bitterness, but with a strange kind of gratitude. It had ended the illusion. I picked up my phone and scrolled through the few numbers I still had saved. Elaine answered on the second ring. "Eleanor? It's late. Are you all right?" I smiled for the first time that day. "Yes," I said. "For once I really am. I need a good lawyer, and maybe your advice." She didn't hesitate. "I'll have someone ready in the morning." When I finally lay down, the quiet felt new, clean, uncluttered. I didn't dream of Eli or of the past. I dreamed of open space, of air that didn't smell like fear. At dawn, I found the scarf folded on my nightstand. Beside it was a smaller hand, the soft touch of Noah. He must have come in while I slept. He'd left a note in crooked 10-year-old handwriting. "You don't need this. Grandma, sometimes cruelty doesn't break you. It wakes you." One scarf showed her what love had become, and what freedom could be. The morning sang like nothing had happened. But I'd already called the lawyer. Coffee hissed in the pot, steady as a heartbeat. Outside, sunlight pretended everything was normal. Inside, silence waited to break. I poured 1 cup, black, no sugar. Grace liked hers sweet. Not today. Footsteps crept down the stairs, careful, rehearsed. Grace entered first, hair perfect, eyes calculating. Michael followed, trying to look casual, failing. "Good morning, Eleanor." Her tone dripped calm. "You said some dramatic things last night." "I did." A pause. "And I meant every word. Her smile cracked. Michael forced a chuckle. Mom, trust funds, lawyers? You can't be serious. I'm serious about the truth. Grace's jaw tightened. You can't just rewrite family because you're upset. I already did. Silence landed like glass shattering. They blinked first. I set my cup in the sink. I'll be in the garden. Their voices followed me down the hall, soft panic under politeness. They thought silence meant surrender. It didn't. It meant countdown. The garden still smelled of rain. I pressed stakes into the soil, grounding myself in something real. Behind the house, Grace's voice cut through the quiet. I'm trying to pay for the Escalade. What do you mean transaction declined? A pause, then sharper. Insufficient funds? Check again! The wind carried her frustration out to me like a confession. She thought she was still in control. Then, it's her. That old woman called the bank. She's doing this out of spite. If only she knew this wasn't spite. It was arithmetic. Next morning I dressed deliberately, the blue blouse Eli loved, the one that said I was still here. When I walked out, they were waiting on the porch. Going somewhere? Michael asked. Yes, I said. Downtown, Grace tried a laugh. Coffee date? Something like that. I didn't owe them explanations. The law office smelled of paper and weathered wood. Attorney Hayes looked up from his desk, steady eyes, kind voice. Mrs. Hartman, tell me what's happening. I told him everything. The scarf, the party, the business that wasn't mine anymore. He listened, writing slowly, like every word mattered. When I finished, he said, Let's see your documents. I handed him the folder, every receipt, every check. Eli used to say money loves order. He'd have smiled at this moment. Hayes scanned the papers, then his brow furrowed. 3 weeks ago, a deposit, almost $300,000. Any idea why? No. He slid the page toward me. Credit Tranche Financial Guarantor. Know them? I shook my head. It's a micro-lender. Desperate companies go there. Cold air filled my chest. Michael hadn't said a word. Hayes turned another page. The money left the next day, to Grace Hartman's personal account. Note says, repayment of personal loan. Grace, her SUV, her endless spending. Hayes met my eyes. Did you authorize this? No. He opened another folder. The signed loan agreement. 2 names, Michael Hartman and mine. Except it wasn't. My breath caught. My own son. A beat. Then steel. They forged me. Hayes looked up. What do you want to do? Everything, I said. Trust, dissolution, audit. I want every number to speak. He nodded once. Consider it done. When I stepped outside, drizzle silvered the streets. I exhaled something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. Back home, the air felt different. Charged. Waiting. Grace sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, eyes darting up. Michael pretended to work. Their unease tasted sweet. I walked past them, silent, unstoppable. Upstairs, the scarf lay folded beside Noah's note. You don't need this, Grandma. He was right. I didn't. 2 days of quiet war followed. They ignored me. I let them. By the 3rd morning, the tension finally cracked. Grace cornered me in the hallway, voice shaking. You think signing papers makes you right? You're destroying everything. I faced her. Calm. Steady. Better destroyed than owned. Her eyes flashed. You'll die alone. I stepped closer until the air between us thinned. I already have, and it's quieter than you'd think. She flinched first. The silence after tasted like victory. Minutes later, tires crunched outside. A courier van, 2 thick envelopes. Grace nearly snatched them from the man's hands. "I'll sign." She tore the first one open, her face drained. "Michael, tell me you didn't." He appeared behind her, grabbed the letter. Partnership termination. Forensic audit. Asset liquidation. He tore open the second envelope. Bank notice. Accounts frozen. Paper trembled in his hands. "Mom, what is this?" I met his eyes, voice quiet but final. "It's not revenge, Michael. It's accountability." I walked past them into the house. The scarf was still on the nightstand, right where I left it. I smiled. I didn't need to cover anything anymore. Peace didn't come from forgiveness. It came from signatures and silence. The storm didn't begin with thunder. It began with whispers, from phones pressed too close, from the hush of a house pretending nothing had changed. For 2 days after the envelopes arrived, the air felt staged, like the whole place was rehearsing silence. Even the refrigerator hummed cautiously. Michael stopped shaving, Grace stopped pretending, and I kept moving, watering plants, folding towels, as if order could keep the walls from listening. But storms always find a way in. Grace cracked first. She paced the living room barefoot, fury tightening every step. "She can't do this. I've been his wife for 12 years. That house is half mine." Michael mumbled something about lawyers. It came out limp, like paper dissolving in rain. By noon, thunder rolled overhead. The sky bruised gray. Then came the door slam. Grace, eyeliner smudged, control unraveling. "What did you tell them?" she hissed. "The bank, the lawyer. What exactly did you say about us?" I kept folding laundry. "The truth," I said. "It's simpler that way." "You've ruined him." "No," I said softly. "He did that himself." She stepped closer, trembling. "You think they'll side with you? You're old, Eleanor. You'll forget your own story before court even starts." Her words hit like cold water, but I didn't flinch. "Do you know what forgetting feels like, Grace?" I asked. "It's loving someone so long you forget where you end and they begin. That's what I'm remembering now." For half a heartbeat she faltered, surprised by empathy where she expected defense. Then came the mask again. "You'll regret this," she snapped and slammed the door. Thunder answered her. Rain set in and stayed. It crawled along the windows, pooled under the porch, whispered through the gutters. Inside, their whispers turned to arguments. Every night, muffled voices behind walls. Every morning, new silence. Noah sensed it. He'd tiptoe into my room with his homework and sit on the floor. "Dad's mad a lot lately," he whispered once. "Some storms," I told him, "have to break before the sky clears." He nodded, serious beyond 10 years. On the 4th morning a letter came. Thick paper, gold seal. Hayes worked quickly. Trust filed, audit opened, assets protected. For the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. I was still reading when shouting exploded from the garage. I walked out quietly. Grace stood by the car, mascara streaked, voice raw. "You've destroyed us! You signed everything!" Michael waved papers like weapons. "They froze the accounts. The business is gone. That loan was your idea. My idea. You said it was temporary. Their words crashed like hail. When she noticed me standing in the doorway, her face twisted. You happy now? She shouted. You wanted to destroy us. I wanted honesty, I said. Michael spun, eyes wild. Honesty. You're my mother. You were supposed to protect me. The air between us tightened. Then, he lost it. He slammed his fist against the table. A picture frame toppled, glass shattering. His voice cracked into something small. I was trying to keep it together. You were all I had left. I didn't move, calm against chaos. From what, Michael? From responsibility? He stared at me, rain plastering his hair, shame replacing anger. You don't understand. I did all this for the family. I do understand, I said. That's what we all tell ourselves right before we lose one. Thunder shook the roof. He turned away, breaking like the glass on the floor. That night, lightning cut the sky in half. Power flickered twice and died. Grace screamed upstairs. Noah ran into my room clutching a flashlight. It's okay, I whispered, pulling him close. It's just the storm. We listened to rain hammer the roof, wind clawing at the windows. A flash lit the room. Our shadows merged on the wall, the past and the future holding on to each other. He whispered, Are we going to be okay? Yes, I said, but they might not be. He giggled softly through his fear, and the sound broke the tension like light through clouds. When he fell asleep, I sat by the window, watching lightning stitch the sky back together. It looked like the world repairing itself. By morning, the storm outside was done, but the one inside wasn't. Grace dragged a suitcase from the closet, movements sharp and final. Michael followed, pleading, Please, just wait. Once this clears, we can fix it. She zipped the bag hard. You can fix it. I'm done watching your mother bury us. I stood in the doorway, invisible witness again. Grace's voice rose. You said she'd never fight back. You said she was too tired, too grateful. He stayed silent, staring at the floor. She turned to me, eyes hollow. She's taken everything. What else do you want? I looked at the bag, the glittering tag she once bragged about. Nothing, I said. You're already giving me peace. She glared, voice shaking. I hope you rot in this house. I smiled just enough. No need. You've already done the rotting. Her mouth opened, closed, then she left. Door slam. Silence. The echo lasted longer than the marriage. Michael stayed, but only his body did. The man inside him was gone. Days blurred. He made calls, begged banks, walked in circles. Once I heard him whisper on the phone, I didn't know. I just signed what she gave me. Guilt had finally learned his name. That evening, he knocked on my door. Not defiant, just defeated. Mom, he said, what happens now? You start over, I told him. He rubbed his face. When Dad died, I promised I'd take care of her. I thought that meant control. Control isn't care, I said. It's fear wearing manners. He looked up, eyes wet. I just wanted to make you proud. You were, I said quietly. Until you started hiding. He nodded, broken but lighter, and walked away. That night, the house finally exhaled. I opened every window. Cool air rushed in, smelling of wet earth and second chances. I walked room to room, through spaces that once held laughter, resentment, ghosts. The walls didn't feel heavy anymore. They felt honest. In my bedroom, the scarf still lay folded on the nightstand. I picked it up, turned it over in my hands. The fabric felt smaller now, powerless. I opened the window wider and let the wind take it. It twisted upward, caught the dawnlight, and disappeared. Behind me, a sleepy voice. "You threw it away?" Noah stood in the doorway, hair messy, eyes wide. "Yes," I said. "It didn't fit anymore." He grinned faintly. "Dad says we might move soon." "Maybe that's good," I said. "Sometimes leaving is what saves you." He climbed onto the bed, leaned against me. We watched the sky turn pale and clean. He laughed once, soft, real, and the sound filled every quiet space left in that house. Later, when the sun finally broke through, I sat by the open window. The storm was gone, but its memory hummed in the walls, like the echo of a truth that refused to fade. Justice doesn't roar, it settles, quiet, certain, like rain stopping for the last time. Some storms come to destroy. Others come to reveal what was never strong enough to last. She didn't survive the storm. She became it. The house stayed quiet after they left. Not peaceful, just quiet. There's a difference. Peace breathes. Silence only listens. Days unfolded in coffee rings and unopened mail. Michael had moved out 2 weeks after Grace. He'd called it temporary, but even his goodbye felt like a sentence that forgot its ending. He still phoned sometimes, brief, guilty calls that began with "Hey Mom" and ended with "I'm working on it." I always said, "Good." Neither of us asked what it meant anymore. Noah came every weekend. His laughter was the only sound that didn't echo. It arrived on a gray Tuesday, a thin envelope, no return address, ink slightly smudged. I turned it over twice before opening. Inside, 1 page. "Mrs. Hartman, we'd like to schedule an in-person interview regarding the audit investigation." I read it twice before noticing the final line. Federal Business Crimes Division. My pulse didn't race. It settled. Justice isn't loud, but it is heavy. And that night the house felt heavier than it ever had. When I called Hayes, my lawyer, he sounded unsurprised. "They'll want your statement," he said. "Just tell the truth." "That's the easy part," I answered. Still, sleep refused me. Freedom hums, but never loud enough to fill an empty room. Morning broke crisp and bright. I dressed simply. Gray sweater, black slacks, bare hands. Not armor, honesty, a knock and 3 precise raps. 2 agents stood on the porch, Collins and Rivera. Polite smiles sharpened by duty. "Mrs. Hartman?" "Yes. May we come in?" Their shoes clicked across the tile. I led them to the dining table, the same one where humiliation once wore birthday candles. Rivera looked around. "Lovely home." "It was," I said. They exchanged a brief glance. The questions began, clean, careful. "When did you first notice discrepancies in the accounts?" "How often did you sign documents for your son?" "Did you authorize this loan?" Each answer left my mouth like a bead sliding from a string. Dates, figures, forgotten trust turned data. Then Collins's pen began to move. Scratch, pause, scratch. Too soft, too familiar. For a split second, I saw Eli at his desk again. Same sound, same pause before signing. Funny how grief hides inside everyday noises. Collins looked up. "You're very exact, Mrs. Hartman." "I had to be," I said. "They weren't." Rivera slid a photocopy across the table. "My name, forged in someone else's hand. Do you recognize this?" "I recognize the handwriting," I said. "It's how betrayal signs its checks." Only the pen resumed, steady, surgical. Each mark sounded like a shovel against memory. After 2 hours, Collins closed his folder. "That's all we need for now." Rivera met my eyes. "You did the right thing." "I'd told the truth," I said softly. "But truth doesn't tuck you in at night." They gathered their papers and left. "They took their notes," I whispered. "I kept my truth." Rain began before dusk, gentle, unhurried. Not grief, renewal. I sat by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. The house listened with me. Then the phone rang. Michael. "Mom." "Yes." "They came by. The agents." "I know." "I told them everything," he said. "The signatures, the accounts. I'm sorry." His voice cracked on the word. We let the rain speak for us. Finally, I said, "You didn't break my heart, Michael." "You just taught it boundaries," he exhaled, shaky. "They said there'll be charges." "I'm scared." "I know," I said. "Healing starts that way." A pause. Then softer. "I miss you." "I miss you too." Before hanging up, he whispered, "Noah talks about you every day." "I know," I said. "He's the best part of both of us." When the line went dead, the rain gentled. And somewhere between thunder and quiet, forgiveness started to sound like rainfall. Morning came gold and clean. Outside, Noah's laughter. He crouched in the garden, hands muddy, grin wide. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Planting something for you." He held up a small pot. A lemon sapling, roots tangled like secrets. "It's a lemon tree," he said. "Dad says the house needs something new." He thought we were planting a tree. I knew we were planting forgiveness. We pressed soil around the roots, palms brown, hearts light. "Will it grow fast?" he asked. "Maybe not fast," I said. "But strong." He grinned. "Like you, that nearly broke me." Instead, I laughed, real from the ribs. He joined in, and the sound rolled through the yard like sunlight made of sound. That afternoon, a car eased into the driveway. Michael. No suit, no defense. Just a man shaped by consequence. Noah sprinted to him. "Dad, look what we planted!" Michael knelt, touching the tender leaves. "That's beautiful," he said. "Just like Grandma." Noah beamed. "Can Dad stay for dinner?" Michael looked at me, not pleading, just waiting. "Yes," I said. "He can." Dinner was soup, bread, and unspoken grace. No performance, only presence. After Noah went to bed, Michael stayed at the table. He stared at his hands. "I promised I'd take care of you," he said. "I thought control was love." "Control isn't care," I told him. "It's fear in disguise." Tears rimmed his eyes. "I don't deserve forgiveness." "Then earn peace instead," I said. "Forgiveness is mercy. Peace is work." For the first time, his shoulders loosened. He looked like my son again, unarmored, human. At the door, he lingered. "Mom," he said, "you're stronger than all of us." I smiled. "No, I just stopped being scared of the truth." He nodded. "See you soon." When his car disappeared, I turned to the yard. The lemon tree shimmered in the moonlight, thin but certain. New roots, new season. I stood by the window, breathing with the house. For the first time in years, it didn't feel haunted. It exhaled, soft, steady, alive. Peace breathes. And tonight, so did the house. Healing doesn't wait for permission. It begins the moment truth breathes louder than fear. She learned that peace wasn't given. It was grown. They asked if I wanted to speak. I didn't. I needed them to listen. The courthouse smelled of old paper and coffee, of stories told too many times. Light poured through tall windows, dust drifting like suspended memory. Every step echoed down the hallway, steady and unafraid. Outside, protesters murmured, some angry, some sympathetic. None of them knew what it was like to lose your name to the people you raised. Inside, the hearing room was small, not a courtroom, just a space built for measured voices. A single microphone. A long table, the hum of old air conditioning, 15 faces behind desks, lawyers, investigators, silent observers. Truth had been waiting here for years. Michael sat near the front, pale, still, hands clasped too tightly. Grace was beside him, sunglasses hiding eyes that no longer belonged to confidence. I hadn't seen her since the day she walked out. Even her perfume smelled anxious now. They didn't look at me. Not yet, the clerk adjusted her glasses. Mrs. Hartman will begin shortly. I nodded. My hands didn't shake. They'd done enough of that in another lifetime. Agent Rivera was already there, reviewing papers, a flicker of recognition in her smile. Good morning, Mrs. Hartman. Morning, I said. She leaned closer. Just answer what you're asked. You've already done the hardest part. I wanted to tell her the hardest part wasn't speaking. It was surviving the silence before you do. But I only smiled. The session began. Names were read, formalities spoken. The sound of shuffling paper replaced the sound of breathing. Mrs. Hartman, one of the panelists began, you are here to provide testimony regarding fraudulent activity connected to Hartman Developments. Do you swear to tell the truth? I've told it all my life, I said. Now someone's finally listening. A few heads lifted at that. Even silence shifted its weight. Michael was called first. He stood stiffly, voice low but clear. He admitted the forged signatures, the misused funds, the complicity in Grace's transactions. He didn't defend himself. Not anymore. When the prosecutor asked why he'd done it, he hesitated. His eyes met mine. I thought success meant control, he said, and I thought control made me safe. The panel wrote notes, dispassionate. But behind them, Rivera's pen paused mid-air. Grace's turn came next. Her voice was sugar-coated steel. I didn't forge anything, she said. Michael handled finances. I was a wife and mother, nothing more. I watched her hands, not shaking, but restless, fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve. A lie always leaves the body before the mouth. Rivera asked quietly, Mrs. Hartman, you were present at a family gathering last month when a transfer was discussed. Do you recall that conversation? Grace's jaw flexed. That was private. Rivera leaned in. It became public the moment the funds left the account. Grace's mask cracked then. Barely, but enough. She glanced at Michael. He didn't look back. Her voice wavered. She turned him against me. Rivera's tone stayed calm. He turned himself, Mrs. Ward. The room exhaled. Then they called my name. I rose slowly, each step deliberate, every sound deliberate. The microphone waited, cold, impersonal. I didn't plan to speak long. Justice doesn't need speeches. Mrs. Hartman, the lead investigator said, you are the primary victim in this case. Is there anything you wish to say for the record? I looked at the table, the same color as the one in my dining room, the same place where the first wound began. For the record, I said, I trusted them. For years, I signed papers I didn't read, believing love was proof enough. It wasn't, I paused. Someone coughed quietly. The air conditioner hummed louder. I didn't come here for revenge, I continued. I came because silence made me complicit. And I've already buried enough truth in this family. A few pens stopped moving. Grace looked away. Michael's head bowed. I raised my son to be kind, I said. I raised my daughter-in-law to feel welcome. What they raised instead was a version of me who apologized for existing. I don't apologize anymore. I felt the air change, like the room itself understood the difference between guilt and freedom. The prosecutor asked, Do you have anything to request of this panel, Mrs. Hartman? Yes, I said. Let the record show I am done carrying their shame. Then I sat down. No trembling. No tears. They continued to question witnesses, review evidence. The clock ticked through the hours like a slow heartbeat. When it was over, the chairperson thanked me for my honesty. Rivera nodded once, an acknowledgement between survivors. The panel adjourned. People rose, chairs scraped. Grace stood frozen for a moment, then turned toward me. Her voice was almost human. You've taken everything, she whispered. I met her gaze. Not everything. You still have the mirror. The words hung there. Sharp, simple, irreversible. She flinched like they'd drawn blood. Michael didn't speak. He just placed a trembling hand on my shoulder as he walked past. No apology. None needed. Some truths don't ask for forgiveness. They replace it. Outside, the air felt new, like the world had been rinsed. Reporters shouted questions, microphones flashing. I didn't answer. They'd already heard enough noise for one lifetime. Noah waited on the courthouse steps holding a folded scarf. Grandma, he said, you forgot this. I smiled. No, sweetheart. I left it for you, he frowned. Why? Because I don't need it anymore. And someday when someone tries to cover your light, I want you to remember what to do. What's that? Let them see you anyway. He nodded, folding the scarf carefully, not as shame, but as memory. We walked down the steps together, each one lighter than the last. At the bottom, I turned once, the courthouse gleaming behind us, the sound of cameras muffled by distance. The world had seen my silence and mistaken it for surrender. Now it would see what silence could build. At home, the lemon tree had grown taller, its first green leaf stretching toward sunlight. I brushed soil from its base and whispered, You made it, the house answered with a creak, soft, alive, breathing. For years it had held our secrets. Now it held only peace. Inside, the clock ticked. Steady, unhurried. I poured coffee, sat by the window, and let the quiet fill me without fear. Peace breathes. And tonight so did I. Sometimes the last word isn't spoken. It's lived. She didn't win. She became free. Houses remember voices, even the ones we never meant to leave behind. You can repaint the walls, change the furniture, but memory hides in corners. It waits for morning light to find it. It's been 5 years since the hearing. The lemon tree out front is taller than me now. Every spring it blooms early, as if it can't wait to prove something survived. Michael comes by most Sundays. He doesn't bring flowers anymore. He brings stories, small, honest ones. He fixes things, too. Loose hinges, leaky pipes. He's learned the sound of quiet work. Grace is gone. No forwarding address. No new name on the news. Just silence. And for once, silence feels like justice. The town still remembers, of course. People still whisper. But whispers have lost their power here. This house has heard worse, and forgiven more. Noah is 15 now. He moves through rooms like sunlight, warm, quick, impossible to hold. When he laughs, the house feels young again. He's taller than me now, but he still hugs like a child. Both arms, all heart. He helps me in the garden after school. We talk about everything and nothing. He asks questions that sound simple until they land. "Grandma," he said one day, "how do you know when to forgive someone?" I told him, "When holding on starts to hurt more than letting go." He thought for a while, then nodded. "Then you must be really strong." I smiled. "No, sweetheart. I just got tired of being weak." The lemon tree bloomed for the first time last spring. The air smelled like new beginnings, sharp and sweet. Noah pressed a hand against the trunk. "This was just a stick once," he said. "Yes," I told him. "And look what roots can do when they're not afraid to grow." He looked at me the way his father used to when he finally understood something. Quiet awe. No need for words. That night, I found the old scarf in a drawer I hadn't opened in years. Folded neatly, still soft, still gray, I ran my fingers along the fabric. It no longer stung. Noah walked in and saw me holding it. "What's that?" he asked. "It used to cover shame," I said. "Now it just covers dust," he laughed. "It's kind of nice, though. Old things look cool now." "Then maybe keep it," I said. "But only if you promise never to wear it for the wrong reason." He nodded seriously, tucking it under his arm like a treasure. Sometimes I sit by the window and watch him from inside. He talks to the lemon tree like it's a friend. Tells it secrets, jokes, plans. It reminds me of how I used to talk to the house, hoping someone would finally answer. Now it does. The creak of old wood, the sigh of air through the vents. It's not loneliness anymore. It's memory breathing. Michael visits one evening after work. He looks older, softer, less afraid of his own reflection. We sit on the porch, watching Noah rake leaves. "He's good," Michael says quietly. "He is," I agree. He glances at me. "Mom, do you ever think about Grace?" "Sometimes," I say. "But thinking isn't the same as missing." He nods, almost relieved. "I'm sorry," he adds. "I know," I tell him. "You've already said it. The rest is living it." He squeezes my hand once, the way he did as a boy when the world scared him, and then goes inside to make tea. It's enough. I spend more time recording lately. Old cassette player on the table, blank tape stacked beside it. My handwriting on each label: garden, letters, lemon tree, silence. Some people leave jewelry. I'm leaving words. The first time I pressed record, my voice trembled. By the third tape, it sounded like home again. One night, I told the recorder, "When the world stops listening, silence isn't the enemy. It's the reset button." Another time, "Don't confuse calm with giving up. Sometimes peace looks like surrender, but it isn't." I don't know if anyone will ever listen to them all. Maybe just one will matter. Maybe that's enough. It rained last week, hard and sudden. The garden flooded, but the lemon tree held. Its roots are deep now, stubborn like me. After the rain, Noah helped me stake it upright. He wiped mud on his jeans, grinning. "Still standing," he said. "So am I replied. Later that night, I sat in the kitchen with the last tape waiting in the machine. The window was cracked open. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like Thunder's apology. I pressed record. "My sweet boy," I began. "If you're hearing this, it means time has moved the way it's supposed to. Don't mourn that. Let it teach you how to breathe." I paused, smiling at the lemon tree outside. I once thought silence meant I had nothing left to say. Now I know it's where truth rests after it's been spoken. I hesitated, then added softly, "Silence can bury or it can bloom." The tape clicked, out of space. I didn't bother recording the rest. He'd know. Years pass quickly when peace finally stays. My hands ache more now, but my heart doesn't. Michael's gray shows in his beard. He laughs easier. Noah drives himself to school. He waves every morning, sometimes late, sometimes with coffee in hand. Always smiling. I don't tell him I listen for his car until it fades. The sound means the house isn't empty, only waiting. The lemon tree blooms twice a year now. Its fruit is small, stubborn, and perfect. When Noah picks the first one, he always brings it to me. We slice it in half, sprinkle sugar, share it in silence. Bittersweet. Exactly like life. One summer afternoon, I rest on the porch, sun slipping through the branches. I hear Noah in the living room. Old tapes playing, my own voice echoing through the hall. It startles me at first hearing myself younger. Then I smile. The house remembers, just like I said it would. He finds me outside, holding the last tape in his hand. "Grandma," he says, "this one cut off." "I know," I whisper. I never finished it. He sits beside me, gentle. "You were saying something about silence. Burying or blooming?" I nod. "Yes." He waits. I let the pause stretch, my favorite kind of conversation. Finally, I say, "Maybe you should finish it." He looks out toward the tree, its leaves shimmering like green light. "I think I can," he says. We sit quietly a while longer. A breeze moves through the yard, carrying the smell of lemons and rain. Years later, the camera finds Noah, older now, grown into his voice. He stands beside the lemon tree, one hand resting on the trunk. The old scarf is tied loosely around his wrist, not as a burden, but as memory. He presses play on the tape recorder. Her voice fills the air, aged but steady. Silence can bury or it can bloom. The audio crackles, fades. Noah looks up, finishes softly. "And she taught me how to listen for the difference." He closes the recorder. Behind him, the house stands still, breathing, alive. Some legacies are written in words. Hers was written in quiet. The house remembered her voice. And so did he. I remember the first silence, and I remember the last. Between them, an entire family lived and unlearned the sound of shame. I am only wood and air, plaster and light, yet I carry their echoes. I have felt their footsteps and their tears seep into my floors. If you listen closely enough, houses hum the songs of those who dared to be honest inside them. The years have softened me. Paint flakes where laughter used to live. The lemon tree outside touches my windows now, taller than any of them ever imagined. Every spring it presses blossoms against the glass, as if knocking to remind me that beginnings never end. Eleanor still lives here. Her hair is silver now, her movements slower, but her silence has weight, not the kind that hurts, the kind that heals. When she moves through me, she hums under her breath. It's always the same tune, half forgotten, the one her husband used to whistle while mending things. The melody drifts through my hallways, smoothing the dust. She speaks to me sometimes. Not words, just gratitude. A hand on the wall, a soft exhale. I know, I whisper back, though she can't hear. Michael visits often. He still parks in the same place, still looks up before knocking, as if asking permission. He brings groceries, tools, and stories about people who finally learned to live honestly. Each visit leaves a little less guilt in his voice. Grace never returned. Her absence is the one sound I do not miss. Every echo fades differently. Hers vanished like perfume in rain. Quick, forgettable, gone. Noah. Ah, Noah. He fills me again. Older now, yet still barefoot when it rains. Still talking to the lemon tree as if it were an old friend. He studies sound for a living. Of course he does. He says he records the way silence bends around memory. I would smile if walls could smile. He keeps the scarf folded in a box on his desk. Sometimes, late at night, he opens it, not to wear it, just to touch what once hurt. Even pain, when understood, becomes soft. He plays his grandmother's tapes in my living room. Her voice floats through my beams and settles in the corners like light dust. It doesn't haunt me. It reminds me what truth sounds like when it stops apologizing. I have watched this family rebuild without pretending the cracks aren't there. They talk openly now. Arguments are short. Laughter stays longer. Even the silence feels shared. When Michael laughs, Eleanor closes her eyes. Not from weariness, but gratitude. When Noah tells her about his research, she listens the way she once prayed. Quiet, reverent, hopeful. And at night, when they've all gone to sleep, I breathe. The same slow inhale I've always known. The same steady exhale. Only softer now. This morning movers came. Not many boxes, just the necessary ones. I've always known this day would come. Noah stood in the doorway, clipboard in hand. He looked around the way people do when they try to memorize everything at once. His fingers brushed my wall. He whispered, "Thank you." I wanted to tell him it was mutual. Eleanor sat in her chair by the window, sunlight spilling across her lap. She didn't cry. She never does. She simply watched the lemon tree sway and said, "It's ready." So was I. The last night before they leave, the house smells of lemon and old books. Eleanor moves slowly through each room, touching frames, shelves, the edge of the kitchen counter. Every contact feels like a benediction. When she reaches the dining table, the one that once held humiliation, truth, and forgiveness, she pauses. Her hand rests flat on the wood. She whispers, "You held it all, didn't you?" And I answer, in the language only houses know, always. Later, she sits at the window and speaks softly into the recorder one last time. My story began in silence. And if it must end there too, I'm not afraid. She looks toward Noah. Promise me you'll keep listening, even when it's quiet. He nods, tears hidden behind his calm. The tape spins until it runs out. The click echoes through me like a heartbeat fading into rest. Dawn comes early. Boxes wait by the door. The lemon tree shimmers, its leaves brushing my windows in farewell. Eleanor stands one last time in the entryway. Her hand on the frame, her smile small but sure. "This house saved me," she murmurs. Noah answers, "No, Grandma." "You saved yourself?" "The house just listened." She laughs. Soft, true. Then they step outside. Houses are borrowed time wearing roofs. And every family is just passing weather. The door closes gently. For a moment, everything stills. Then the sunlight moves across my floors, filling the empty rooms with gold. I remember the first silence, the one born of pain when she covered her face and I could do nothing but hold her echo. And I remember the last, the one born of peace, when she walked away without looking back. If I could speak to her now, I'd say this: "You didn't just survive here. You transformed the air itself. You taught a house how to forgive." Noah returns one final time that evening, alone. He stands in the center of the living room, presses play on the old recorder. Her voice fills me again. Silence can bury or it can bloom. He closes his eyes, finishes for her. Steady, grown, his voice a mirror of hers. And she taught me how to listen for the difference. He leaves the recorder on the windowsill, still running, capturing the sound of wind through open doors. Birds in the distance, the soft creak of beams settling. The tape spins on, whispering static like rain on old glass. Then he locks the door, pockets the key, and walks toward the lemon tree. I listen to him go. I breathe once more, soft, steady, alive. Peace breathes. And today, so do I. Houses keep what people forget. They remember the weight of truth, the echo of laughter after pain, and the sound of silence finally meaning peace.